Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Dele today. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Megwa.
And that sounds like some song's about to start. Good morning, and Ayo Makine. Welcome to the show.
Song's about to start?
Please.
Did I hear right?
Let's not do this. Can we just be at
Did you say the song is about to start?
I mean, she was about to sing. Come on, Chamberlain. Didn't you notice that?
Is there a remote control?
Hello, good morning, and welcome. That's the way the song starts.
Okay.
It's not my fault that I am musical in nature.
So, Chamberlain, just imagine for a second, you want to hear the news and go, the federal government has now decided to suspend.
I know, radio folks, I know.
Yes, we're musical in nature.
No problem.
Don't be angry.
No problem. But I'll just give you people this Marathon local government area.
Yes, let's go to Zamfara.
Let me bust your bubble. Take the carpet off their feet this morning. Well, I'm sure everybody look at this skyline, Jerry. Enjoy yourselves with these visuals. Don't let the song be about to start. It's already started over there.
Well, that's our skyline. Good morning, Zamfara. I love this city, but you know this particular dam. It's a pretty disappointing story. Many people have been very upset about the fact that not much work has been done here over the years. And it's a very old dam. You know,
1983?
Yeah, 1983. You know, with a storage capacity of about 450 million cubic meters of water and a lake area of 8,000 hectares. Quite a shame that a lot of this is being abandoned, and it has the capacity to generate 3 megawatts of electricity with its two 1.5 megawatts hydroelectric turbines installed since its inception, you know. But you know, it hasn't been working. It was built to irrigate 23,000 hectares, out of which 8,000 hectares are for the surface irrigation and 15,000 hectares for sprinkler irrigation system. So the capacity and the plans for this place were fantastic. The execution, not working yet.
How many of you remember Shehu Shagari? Well, unfortunately, that was a time where he was commissioned, but it's no longer serving the purpose. And so several questions. But you know, it's being managed by Sokoto Rima River Basin Development Authority. And the project is called the Transforming Irrigation Management in Nigeria project. Yeah. Yes, it's in Zamfara State. It's an irrigation scheme under the Sokoto Rima River Basin Development Authority. And so the rest, there you go. It's history. How do projects like this get started and abandoned?
I mean, it collapsed in 1987, but there hasn't been any deliberate efforts by the Zamfara state government and the federal government to fix it, despite its economic importance. And because the place wasn't viable, a lot of the farmers who lived there had to move into the cities.
Well, I think Sokoto Rima River Basin need to speak up if they've given up on all of this. I haven't seen any latest commentary about this one. Maybe I might have missed it, but ever since, because for the most part, a lot of projects in this, and we've talked about this in this country, they start initially, then it's abandoned. Then you keep asking yourself, so what's the purpose? Does it then mean that it's just because some people get monies out of this and then they move on?
It's a pretty
I don't want to bust your bubble, Ayo.
You remember the second, Ayo, do you remember in the second term when former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was trying to run for second term? He actually went here.
Well, just say Second Republic, I will remember.
He actually went here when he was trying to run for second term and said he was going to fix it if he won the election. He didn't.
Did he win?
No, he didn't win the election. So he didn't fix it. But no one decided to pick it up, and that's one of the issues people have had. Policy somersaults and all of these lack of continuance, especially in these sorts of projects. A very disappointing story from Zamfara State. And we'll be talking about Zamfara State in a little bit. But Ayo, what are your thoughts on this project that has been abandoned for so long?
You know, when you these are some of the things that I think are responsible for the strife and the rifts that occur from time to time. Now, this is as you talked about it, a 4,000 megawatt capacity dam, and it is, as have been said over time, abandoned. And yes, Chamberlain, one of the 56,000 plus projects abandoned in the country. And it's about the same thing we have been talking about concerning our refineries in the country. Abandoned, that's what the language a number of people would use. So imagine that we have this 4,000 capacity dam working and a number of other dams all over the nation working as they should. Are we going to be having the kind of problems we're having with electricity right now? I'm not too sure. Now, the primary beneficiaries, the immediate primary beneficiaries of the production of whatever comes from this place, maybe should be the people who live around the place. Now, look at what happened in Port Harcourt, for instance. Our reporters, our correspondent in Port Harcourt says that as a result of the fuel that is now coming from the Port Harcourt refinery, fuel price went from around 1,700 or 1,500 naira to less than 1,100 naira. So imagine the same thing happens in this sector, in the energy sector as well, in the electricity sector, beg your pardon, and we have this kind of cascading effect in various parts of the country. Just imagine how much ease micro, small, and medium enterprises will have getting stuff done for themselves, and the life that will come around this place. Well, Zamfara State has a responsibility. The federal government has a monitoring system around it. They get funding every year in the budgets, at both at the federal level and at the state levels. So why do we still have this? And guess what? No head is rolling. Business as usual, as Chamberlain will talk about. So I don't know. It gets very depressing, and I'm wondering, what are we telling the younger generation that are coming, that we're saying are the leaders of tomorrow? Are we going to be there until we die?
Well, of course, we don't expect that to be the case. But as it were, speaking about budget, the governor will be presenting his budget to the State House of Assembly today, maybe in the region of 600 billion thereabout, but that will be happening today in Zamfara State. So just keep your eye locked on that one. But speaking of which, remember also in Zamfara State, the unfortunate incident that occurred yesterday along the road to Gusau. So we've got the Commissioner of Police on the line this morning to just give us an update, Mr. Mohammed Dalijan, who is the Commissioner of Police for Zamfara State. He joins us now to just explain some of this narrative that is making the rounds. Good morning, Commissioner. Thank you for joining us this morning on the program.
Good morning, and thank you.
Okay, so we've got this piece of information coming through. So could you give us an update? What can you tell us about this explosion that occurred along on the way to about 85 or 84 kilometers to Gusau?
This Lakura, when they were dislodged by the army in Sokoto and Kebbi, the then that survived the military onslaught were trying to find new enclaves. So as they were passing through that village to Berningwari Forest, they planted a bomb under a bridge, and a motorist was passing. He stepped on it. It exploded and killed the driver, and 3 other people were seriously injured. So that was the situation yesterday. So
what is the precise location where this happened?
It precisely happened at a village called Yankaba, just at Kansadao, on the road to Kansadao village. That is where it happened. They were constructing a feeder road, and they just used that opportunity and planted the bomb and noticed. And this driver unfortunately stepped on it, and he died in the process.
Oh, so wait, was he on the road or under the bridge? Because some accounts say that it was under the bridge and somebody stepped on it, as opposed to some who say it was on the road itself.
It's on the road, but the road,
bridge
there already, an old bridge, and the road is now under construction. So they planted it just under the bridge, and when the driver was passing, he stepped on it, and it exploded and killed him. And 3 other people that were inside his vehicle were also seriously injured. They are now responding to treatment at the Dansadao General Hospital.
But how did the police know that it was this local terrorist group?
They were seen passing through a village, And as we were getting reports, trying to get ourselves prepared to pursue them, then this thing happened. So 100% sure that they are the ones that planted that bomb. The bandits here doesn't use bombs because they don't know how to make improvised explosive devices. So we are 100% sure that they are the ones, because planting bombs in Zamfara state is a new development, and we know that bandits don't have that capacity.
Well, CP, I mean, yesterday we heard that the explosives ordnance disposal team are actually canvassing that whole Dan Sadao, because that road is the Dan Sadao Gusau road. So we hear that that team is actually going around checking to see if there are other explosives along that road. Is there any update on the work that the team has done?
Yes, the bomb disposal units of the Nigeria Police Force, as well as some military officers from Operation Fansanyama, are there. They are combing the whole forest in Dan Sadao area. We are trying to see the elements of the bomb that have been detonated. The bomb disposal unit have already collected it for laboratory analysis, and then they are advancing now together with the military to see how those Lakurawas will be arrested.
I mean, it's a very strange situation, especially with this new terrorist group entering into places in the local areas. I want to be able to talk about Dan Sadao area. How much security presence do we have in that place? And knowing that a lot of these Lakurawa terrorists have been moved away from other states, of course, the security team as CP in Zamfara, you should have expected that they would be perhaps coming towards your direction. How much security presence do we have on that Dan Sadao Gusau road and in the neighboring communities as well?
Well, you know, Dan Sadao area is a forest, and that forest extends to Birningwari up to Kwantagora and the Zuru area. It is span about 200 kilometers. So it is a vast forest, and that is why they are trying to relocate to that area. Already we have operation base of the military and the joint task force in that area. But you know, as they are moving, they will try to avoid areas where security presence is. Okay. So that is the problem. They have their intelligence. As they are moving, they will try to ensure that they evade all areas where military personnel are there.
All right, Commissioner, we do thank you for your time, and we hope that you keep doing what you can to ensure people in Zamfara State are safe.
Thank you very much.
All right, so speaking about the police, yesterday, the Commissioner of Police in FCT came up with a statement that, we've been down this road before. We're going to go over that again, unfortunately, in 2024. It says your vehicle is tinted in the FCT, that they will enforce the rules. And it says that, I'm trying to remember those specific words, that some one-chance kidnappers, told, most of them said that, or is it the victims or something, that it was because the vehicles were tinted, and that was why a lot of those things happened. Now, that statement came in, or he spoke to journalists earlier. But it now turns out that I think after there were some sort of backlash, the CP issued a statement, and then much later then said, because people were asking questions, say, look, this doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And then he says, well, if your vehicle is factory fitted with the tint, if you've got a medical reason, I didn't see anyone that said if you paid before. If you had the permit.
He didn't mention the permit in the updated statement. What he said, he was categorically, and you are correct. I'm sure he must have hit a lot of backlash at the time when he said, but just so we can contextualize what the Commissioner of Police of the FCT is trying to do, they're basically looking at, there's an increasing rate of one-chance vehicle theft. Again, a one-chance vehicle.
Is it increasing or it has subsided? So
he's saying that it's increasing, and I think we're going to have him one of our programs.
I think we should show us
he can give us some kind of data, because the former CP also had the same issue when he came in. There was an upsurge in one-chance business in the FCT, and they were catching a lot of people, even couples, married, sometimes in the parade to be a man and his wife, that are using their family car to do one chance. And because of this transport issue in the FCT, a lot of people don't do the right things. They don't wait until they enter like a proper vehicle to go. They just wait for any car that is available. I told you at this junction here, sometimes around 4 o'clock, you see people jump on top of a Hilux and they're just going with the Hilux. So the one chance operators took advantage of this particular lacuna. And he's saying that those one chance situations have started to increase again, which is why they decided to stop anyone that is using tinted vehicles, you know. But he has given that update. If you have a medical reason for having a tinted car, if it's factory fitted, you know, and I'm sure they're going to, I want to be able to get more details, like you said, you know, what are the figures, what's happening? And then the ultimate issue, which is the background of all of this, is that there's a transportation problem in the FCT.
Look,
what's been done about that? The
challenge with that is this, because the FCT minister did tell us that that has reduced, that they've done a lot, they put a lot in place, and that has reduced. They have a lot of checks, time and again, in different parts of the city. So how come now we hear now that there's an upsurge?
There's an upsurge.
And besides, I think the police can be more imaginative. You can't be coming in 2024 and be telling us, oh, because some persons who were kidnapping said it was because of the things. So somebody's car was broken. A friend who parked his car, he went to eat fish in one of the gardens.
Why are you boys, you people?
And then, who knows, he parked it outside the garden. So who knows if they tell the police now, well, because I parked outside, that's why I broke the car, or so they will tell you, again. Oh, stop parking outside. Look, we have to be a little more imaginative. People who have factory-fitted tints, who says they are not prone to some of these things? And let me tell you, are you telling me that the police will be stopping those politicians who are driving, although even if it's not factory fitted? Oh, please, guys, come on. We'll have to do something a little more. Let's put on a thinking cap. Put on a thinking cap.
Because it does feel like we're going around in circles.
Troubling Nigerians. I knew this will come back. Ever since that judgment came from VIO to leave the roads, there's a lacuna. In the matter of speaking. Pardon me going on and on this morning. I know Lagos we face a lot of this back and forth time and again about, oh, where's your EMT? Where's this permit? All the time, the motorists were always all over the place. But we're not leaving you out on this one. Don't worry about that.
I think I'll just pass on this, because I know we still have to go through the papers. But, you know, I mean, the issue.
Yeah, so you go ahead and take us through that.
Yeah, okay. So let's just go through the paper straight away. Every newspaper this morning has its eyes on the Senate. Let's begin with the Nigerian Tribune. Senate suspends action on tax reform bills. Summons emergency meeting with Attorney General of the Federation to iron out disputed areas. The story continues on the inside pages. The Nigerian News Direct. Tax reform bill. Senate suspends reading, constitutes ad hoc committee with AGF. Details on page 14. Daily Independent. Tax reform bills. Senate raises committee to meet FG delegation over gray areas. Says it won't allow bills to aggravate country's problems. Suspends public hearing. Other issues related to the bills. The front page of Daily Trust has Senate AGF to review tax reform bills today. Public hearing suspended indefinitely. New committee an aberration. You may want to find out who said that on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Blueprint has tax reform bills. Judiciary to the rescue as Senate holds action, meets presidential delegation. Reforms urgent to address struggles of Nigerians. That's according to Dele. The details continue on the inside pages. New Telegraph. Senate buckles. Suspends hearing on controversial tax reform bills. Resolves to hold wider consultations. Proposed reform will destroy public tertiary institutions. That's according to Kwasu. As ATAF says Nigeria, other nations lose $50 billion annually to tax evasion. The details on pages 2 and 3. The Daily Times newspaper. Senate bows to pressure, suspends further action on tax reform bills, constitutes committee to meet presidential team today. This Nigerian newspaper has the same story at the bottom of the page, but its lead story this morning is bank customers groan over inability to withdraw cash at counters, seek punishment for erring banks on rights violation. CBN, FCC, PC pledge to investigate, bring perpetrators to book. The details continue on the inside pages of the paper. The Guardian newspaper, Antimicrobial Awareness Week. Antibiotics abuse worsens drug resistance, claims 64,500 lives yearly. And you find graphics right there on the causes of antibiotic resistance. The details of that story you'll find on the inside pages of the paper. These are the papers we have for you this morning. I'd like to stay on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning, and I find something very shocking there. Beside the lead story, which is about antibiotic resistance, and that's, by the way, something that should worry us, because according to that data, 64,500 people died annually because the medications they are using are no longer effective. The bacteria has gotten used to it, and I always tell any friend who cares to listen, don't let your body build resistance by going through some of these things. Anyway, we'll talk to your medical counselor for that one. But there is another story right beside that graphics on the front page, and that is where the question of why NIN has not been effective in stemming kidnapping is right there. And the question you want to ask really is why? Now, the executive director of PIN explained that the enrollment never showed that government wanted to use it to tackle criminal activities, saying the manner of implementation was driven by something entirely different, largely by some other pecuniary gains. So, is this the truth? It's right there on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Part of the ideal that was sold to Nigerians about the enrollment and the urgency of it at the time, and the discomfort that so many people had to go through, so many students had to go through to enroll for NIN, the National Identification Number. And we are hearing, part of what was sold to us was that it was going to stem kidnapping. That when you made a call, security agencies will get the number, will be able to track where they are and all those things, and then we'll be able to track whoever it is. And that question, Chamberlain and Kayla, you would remember, we have asked several times. They make calls to make demands for ransom. And here we are being told that it was not really intended for that. Well, let me believe that it is not true. And if it is not true, let the Minister of Interior and whoever else is involved in this process come out and tell Nigerians exactly what is happening here. Because if this was sold to us, that it will stem kidnapping and it will stem all kinds of criminal activity, and we are being told by some force that's right there on the front page of a major newspaper like Guardian newspaper, that it is not going to be effective because of whatever else, someone owes us some explanation. That's my take this morning.
I mean, it's a lot going on in the papers this morning. I think we're going to be talking about quite a lot of these conversations today. But just so we can give you two updates on some of the stories in the papers. Of course, we have been talking about the tax reform bills for some time now. The update that we have is that the Senate has suspended further legislative action. We're seeing that from quite a number of papers today, including the Vanguard, including Leadership newspaper. Quite a lot of papers are talking about that. The Tribune is also talking about it today. So that update on the tax reform bills will form the crux of our conversations in a bit. And of course, we hear that there's going to be a 10-man committee set up to liaise with the federal government. And they'll be meeting the Attorney General today. Of course, the Labour Party and the PDP are welcoming the Senate's decision. Meanwhile, the Senate's decision embodies the spirit of democratic governance, according to the CUPP, And, Mr. Dele is also speaking up, said they're trying to protect those now opposing reform. So quite a lot of things going on, and we're going to be reaching that conversation at some point during the day. And then the other update that we have is about this alleged defamation story. Remember yesterday, we did show you where Mr. Dele Farotimi was being taken away by, and the update from the Ado-Ekiti police command, where they say he is in their custody. Well, in their custody rather. The update is that the Ekiti court has remanded Mr. Farotimi, and I think he's going to be coming up that case. He's going to be there till the 10th of this month. So that's the update on that. And of course, we're hearing that many obedience and people who support him are threatening that they will be protesting the situation. But those are the two updates that I have for you this morning. Chamberlain, what are you looking at?
Okay, well, we'll go to break, but we'll now come back and then take you through this report happening about the tax bills, and then we'll see which one our guest will focus on, and we'll get your perspectives as well. So stay on with us. Welcome back. Yes, indeed, we're continuing our conversation about the tax bills, which is before the National Assembly, but there appears to be some questions about what will happen today. Yes, there's going to be a meeting, but as you've seen there anyway, so we're joined by Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who is the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, these bills are generating a lot of concerns, and perhaps rightly or wrongly, but at the moment, yesterday the presidency did say, okay, Attorney General, work with the National Assembly and let's see if we could find, resolve some of the thorny areas before they move forward. Whatever that step is, I guess time will tell. But out of all of those bills, what is your impression about all of what's going on?
Well, thank you very much. I will just speak to two issues there that affect the ordinary Nigerian. Okay. You see, I hear people from various regions, we support this, we disagree, and what have you. Meanwhile, you have nobody to look at the bill. I'll just mention one, VAT. VAT is a tax on consumers, which is Nigerians. So that if you increase the VAT today, it's not affecting producers. It's going to affect those who are going to consume. Because what the producer will do is to just build that into his cost of sale. And they have said that by 2025, it will increase to 10%. 2026, 2027, 2029, 12.5%. 2030, 15%. When we have just been passing through that of fuel subsidy removal, the regulation of the dollar and the impact on Nigeria, you want to do this again to the people. Because those buying things in the market, and all of us buy today, we are going to now pay for this.
So it's not for luxury goods? It's not
for luxury goods only. If you make phone call, and what have you? You want to buy cement, maybe you want to do your anything, so you pay. Nigerian people will pay. That is one. Two, the one that really concerns me most, the development levy. You see, in 1993, the military then, because when we reached an agreement with the state could not fund it, they now challenge us to provide a way we can solve and provide some material university so that we can be moving all over the world. That is not in TED fund. We said it was ETF, Education Trust Fund. But in 2011, after a lot of struggle, it became Tertiary Education Trust Fund. And we met, look at it, and said, why not allow companies and industries to contribute 2% to funding education? We didn't call it tax. Contribute 2% to fund education. And those 2% you are contributing then, we should not even call it tax, call it investment. Because you are investing in education, because the product of those tertiary education are just going to work for you. Just 2% of the profit of company, which the military accepted with open-heartedly. Somewhere in 2021, it was increased to 2.5, and 2023 to 3%. And when you go around all Nigerian universities, polytechnic education today, 90% of the structure, physical structure you have for them are product of this particular struggle, of the third one. 99% of people who are now trained in the university, the maximum degree, PhD, and one of the criteria for assessing a university is the ratio of PhD to non-PhD. I've got the third one training. More than 90% of the training are done by third one. Go to laboratories, all the new equipment, laboratories are third one. ICT third one. But this bill is saying that by year 2030 it should be scrapped.
So
it should be scrapped, and that by 2023 they should merge them together with Naseni and NIDA, and then 4%, then reduce to 2% in 2020.
Okay, but there's been several explanations about that part.
Yes.
And what they said was, first, Naseni, TET Fund, NIDA are funded through budgetary provisions.
They are not.
And company income tax and other taxes paid by the same businesses that are overburdened. So he says, what they are asking is this. For instance, you say companies and everybody pays all of those. But we also do know that several of these companies keep complaining about multiple taxation. So the point that he was making is that what they are trying to do is to consolidate the taxes so that they won't keep complaining about multiple taxation. Because ever since that happened, there's been several other taxes that these companies have got to pay. So provisions, funding that will come from government, he says, will not stop. But they will consolidate those taxes and it will still be there. Not that they will scrap or stop them outright.
People are playing with words.
Oh, really?
That fund is not funded from budget. That fund, the money is consolidated in an account that is assessed by CBN. From companies, money coming from companies, the investment by company in education. When you go outside the country, we can talk about outside the country. Companies fund university, they donate money, they give funds, they give grants. Which companies are not doing Nigeria? The only way they are doing is this 2%. So they should not look at this as tax. You are investing in industry that will produce students, graduates coming to work for you. And two, you see, if you already have a tax that was formed in 1993, for me, is the only government institution that have been established that is functioning accurately. All others are broken down. Let's take the NEL fund they're talking about. This is the third one. Since 1993, when we started and today, they have started two that collapsed. The only one that have remained and is doing extremely well is third one. Why do you want to now destroy it?
I want to be able to quote him directly.
Yeah, whatever it is.
So you can point out where you say he's not being straightforward.
Let me put it.
We are not scrapping Naseni. This is from Mr. Yudili.
Yes.
We are not scrapping Naseni and TET Fund. We agree that Nigerian businesses have to bear too many taxes, over 60, which is stunting their growth. So one of the objectives of this reform is to harmonize this with single-digit few number taxes. And we identified TET Fund, Naseni, and a few others and consolidated them into one, right? So he now says that by 2030, they will no longer share a special tax because the government cannot collect company income tax, VAT, stamp duty, and then introduce new taxes for areas they want to develop. That's his explanation. It's not being scrapped. You've been saying this.
You see, like I said, he's playing with words. Look at the sharing. By 2015, 2025, 2026, TET Fund will assess 50% of this consolidated fund. First, it will be 4%.
Yes.
2026, 2027, it will reduce to 3%. TET Fund will have 66.57%. 2030, TET Fund will have 0. So if you are consolidating and you are now allocating different, but say by 2030 it will be 0. Look, and to me, other countries in Africa are emulating this TET Fund. I will give you an example. The Ghana now, because of this, in 2021, Ghana passed their own GET fund, Ghana Education Trust Fund. And you see, where they get their from? From VAT. 2.5% of their VAT. What are we saying? If you are starting NEFON, which is your program, there's no problem. Challenge the academia. We will tell you how to fund it. We will give you a way to fund it without going to temper with the way they're already on ground.
So you say that even though they say, look, that clause in section 59.3 is that we are not going to the word they use, consolidating, you say is playing with words.
Yes, he says integrate collection system.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
They will tell you and the lady, by the way, we will consolidate your salary. Are you following? And then, but by 2010, you will get 60%, you get 30. But by 2030, you will get 100, you will get 0. Is that a consolidation?
No, it's not. Is it 0 entirely or 0 of what was coming from those multiple ones?
No.
Not 0 of the now consolidated one, which will kick off afterwards.
No, 0 of all. Look, no one was. I have taken time to read that about more than 200 pages. 0 of all the consolidated amount. They will reduce it to 2% and give all of them. And they use the word 0. Nasani 0. Need that 0. And these are people funding our technology. Then loan, which has got to do with all. Let me tell you about loan. If you convert it to a loan, which means you are no more having that intervention in university. You are not collecting money and give it. Parents are not going to pay for it.
What is your main issue with the NEL fund? Because I know it's at the back of a lot of these issues.
Our issue with NEL fund, I will give it 2 ways. One is that in a country like Nigeria, it should be grant.
It shouldn't be a loan.
It shouldn't be a loan. That's our own. Because when you see a country like America, that the unemployment rate is just about 3-4%, the president is paying back those loans of the other students, or those who took the loan, paying back, bearing.
No, for a period.
They are not paying back the back loan, paying back, whether it's for a period or not. But for Nigeria, where unemployment is about 30-40%, and somebody graduates 20 years, doesn't get a job, and you say you should get it, that's loan. We got bursary. They call it bursary during our time. That is 1. 2.
But there's still bursary.
It's gone. 2 is for the children of the rich. 2. I'm not telling you guys check. I've seen the poor man 2. Nobody had done that with the all the universities are increasing their fee now. Hijacking their fee. So that today we borrow more loan, you get more loan from this NEL fund. And it could branch the children of the poor. And many in my university, in my department, we now have less than 10 students in the department. Many have dropped out. And you can check nationwide. Apart from some of these big courses, medicine, law, and what have you, students are dropping out. The children of the poor are dropping out. Why I couldn't branch them? That's what we are saying. So what we are saying, allow TED fund as approved by the military based on the effort of Nigerian lecturers, for whom many died. Mahmoud Tuko, a person here died for that struggle. Don't destroy it, because once you destroy it, you have destroyed Nigeria. Go and check. 90% of the infrastructure you have there are TED funds.
So what is your response to those companies who say, look, ever since that time, there's been several other taxes imposed on companies.
Good.
And so something has to be done about that.
What we are saying, as at 1993, when it was formulated, company did complain. Until recently, company did complain. If what tax, Nigeria is the country with the least allocation of budget to education. These are the only source of funding. The least. I mean, we have multiple students in this so-called this country who cannot go to school. Why not go and touch the one that was made in 1993? Why not remove the tax you introduced between 2020 and today? Why go and temper with it in 1993? When it was there, nobody was complaining. And 2, the companies are not complaining.
Okay, so there's a step. There's consultations going on right now. Are you going to be part of the consultation? Because the president said we understand that there are grievances here, and you have no.
We have never been consulted.
Are you going to? Would you want to be a part of these negotiations now?
If they invite us, we are available.
Have you asked to be a part of the process, though? You know, you can say, look, you can write to the Senate. We want to be part of the process because we have grievances, we have issues.
We follow that, but also know that what we are talking about is not about us. It's about the future of Nigeria. Nigerian government gives less than 10% to education. In West Africa, the minimum allocation to budget education is 15%. We are 10. So the only source of funding is from here, of training of staff. So when you destroy it, you have destroyed the public universities. And they are going to public primary and secondary school, which is exactly what these people want. Because many of them who are doing this, they have private universities. This is what they want, to destroy the public universities, to ensure the children of the poor completely becoming slaves to the children of the rich. So there is a need for all of us, parents, students, even governors. Because if you are going to do that, you should consult the governors. The governor for us said, no, it should be stepped down. Remember? And the federal government said, no, this money goes to the universities. Federal, state. Let me give you, because we are involved, because we will monitor it, it's working well. The similar one formed for primary and secondary, is it working? Is UPEC working? Universal Basic, is it working? But because of this, it's there. Why did you not go to touch that?
No, but some states are accessing the funds.
I say it's still working.
It's still working.
Every university, for that, they are accessing TET fund.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that, why TET fund?
So, why did you say companies are not complaining about multiple taxation?
They are not complaining about education tax. I'm not talking about multiple taxation. If you want to stop the recent taxes. Leave the one that have been there for a long time that is working.
All right, let Ayo ask some questions for you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chamberlain. You know, Prof, the first question I want to ask is do you have anything, or does ASU have anything really against the student loan initiative of the federal government?
What we are saying, you see, we are the academia. We do our research. We have searched all over the world. We have done research. Like in most countries where you're having student loan, when they graduate, they become problem in the society. Some are demoralized, and what have you? Just imagine in this country, a student is graduating from a university and has owed 5 million naira. Even me as a professor at the bar, in 20 years, I cannot pay back loan of 5 million. Then a student who is graduating have a loan of 5 million. And he's not sure of getting a job in 10, 20 years. And we are saying that if we look at what happened in the 60s, 70s, we can go to that level. The children of the poor, assist them. Increase your budgetary allocation to education, and this issue of loan will not come up. And that there should be a grant. And two, that's our problem with the student loan. Because we also found out this is the third time they are introducing it. In the last two, they collapsed. Nobody benefited. Those who benefited didn't pay back. It collapsed. So how are we sure this one will survive? If we look at the history.
Okay, well, still on that, student loan initiatives survive in other climes, don't they? And we hear it from time to time. So do you think it is an initiative that can work, or is something that the federal government should forget about altogether?
You see, when we are talking about all over the world, specify it, make it specific. In United States, one of the areas you have the highest student loan, the students are unable to pay. Some are committing suicide, and the president, Joe Biden, is paying back the loan for some of these people. Paying back the loan they took because of the effect on their citizens. So if it doesn't work in US, they keep on saying with an unemployment rate of less than 4%, how is it going to work in Nigeria with an unemployment rate up to 40, 30, 40%? So let's look at the initiative, look at what others are doing. Is there a way we can afford education appropriately? And the answer is yes. Let me give you a typical example. There was a CBN governor who, during his period as a CBN governor, put a project in every federal university in Nigeria through their social responsibility. That was the Emir Sanusi. There is no university in Nigeria, federal university didn't put a project. But all the other governors that are here, have they put a project in anywhere? Which means that such fund is there, and we found out it's there. If we look at those areas, we have a way of funding this thing rather than coming to encumbrance our young men and women, using the word, what do you call it, a return on investment. In education, there should not be anything on return. In education, we should look at investing for future, which is missing in our own. That's why you are seeing Nigerians, because of this thing, they are ready to remember the country to go and get a degree within 3, 4, 5, 6 months or 1 year. Is that what we want? If our system is working properly, well-funded, students have access to good education, would they be right to go and look for 2 years or 1 year degrees from other countries?
Well, you know, Prof, one of the things that we've also heard is that the TET fund has also come under quite some significant concerns. I mean, a number of people have expressed significant concerns about the operations of TET funds, talking about mismanagement and diversion of funds, lack of transparency, collusion with contractors, and weak oversight, accountability, and a number of other things. Now, how do you respond to that?
Our response is this. As an academics, we have now discussed the new TET fund, and we now join a monitoring project. Any project when there are defects, any project that is not well done, we insist that it must be done properly, or they should be reported to the appropriate security agencies. That's what we are doing. You see, when we keep on talking about this one, it's all doing, this one, it's all doing, what has all the security agencies done to ensure that this is corrected? We have ICPC, we have the Nigerian police, we have all of them. If any of them is not working, what have they done? That's their responsibility. Not talking, not we're just talking. So if any on every 5 years, the president set a visual panel to every university to look at defects. So how many have you seen that confirm? Which of the report have you seen that confirm this thing we hear in the public? So there's a need to have data. So we also challenge the government. I believe that when it happened, they should do what Goodluck Ebele Jonathan did in 2013 by setting up the need assessment committee to go around to the Nigerian university to see whether there are problems with people coming from the ministries, from the universities, from all over, to go and assess if there are issues. And that report is well known all over the country. I will challenge this president to also do the same thing for TET fund, if they believe something is wrong, but not going to scrap it.
Okay. Well, still, now back to the tax reform bills. Now, in your opinion, what needs to be done? Because, as you are aware, more than half of the people who have spoken about these tax reform bills are in favor, and those who are iffy about one thing or the other are asking for some adjustments, some further collaborations, further consultations, and all. And of course, a significant number of people as well, do not up to half, are saying that the whole thing should be watered down the drain. If you could make a recommendation, particularly in the area of your concern, what would be your recommendation concerning the tax reforms?
Thank you very much. For me, most of those you are hearing speaking in the public, they have not read the bill. They have not taken time to read that bill. If they are read it, they will not be hearing some of this thing you are hearing. Two, for us, you can't be now, TET fund is a product of ASU. But now you can't now be, amending that TET law without inviting ASU or meeting with ASU or calling ASU to say, what are your input before you now propose to the National Assembly? If we are really working as a team in the country, the vice chancellor were not consulted, the pro-chancellor were not consulted. If people sat down somewhere and said, let's just, over the next 5 years, let's scrap it, without consulting those who initiated this bill that have today transformed Nigerian public universities. You just went, if this bill didn't come to the public later on through third party, nobody would have known that this bill had been passed and TET fund had been scrapped. That is not how to work in the system. If you are going to amend a bill, to propose a bill to amend a law, you should consult the stakeholders. We were never consulted. Nobody in the university system, polytechnic or education was consulted. That is not how to run in a country that is democratic.
So your concern is about consultation, and that is understood. But if you were indeed consulted, what are the concerns you would be raising, and what are the recommendations you'd be making?
Let me talk about these two things that I said I'm going to talk about. On the issue of VAT, that you want to increase from 7.5% to 15% in 2030. That will create more problems for Nigerian people. All we need to do today is to ensure that the 7.5% remain, but Nigerians to ensure that our money are well used. We are aware, recently there's a forfeiture of 740 properties by an individual in Abuja. They are not named the person. 750 properties by one person. And I saw in government, one person in government having 732 properties in Abuja. And you say there's no money. So what were we saying? Let the poor breathe. And they can only breathe if you don't allow this hijack, creating an environment where the ordinary person is suffering and cannot eat and become beggars. That is one. Therefore, education tax, let that act that was initiated in 1992, 1993, that have transformed all Nigerian universities, allow it to stay. Go and look for ways. If you want to start NEL funds, I would go and look for a way to fund it. Don't go and take from the one that already be there to go and fund it. And like I said, in Ghana, when Ghana came to Nigeria and look at what we are doing, they went back and said, we'll not take it from tax. Let's take it from what do you call it, VAT. Nigerian government can say, VAT is for all Nigerian, state, federal, and local government. Let federal government say, we want to fund NEL fund, which is this, from VAT. Let them take 1 or 2% of VAT and use to fund NEL fund. That way, everybody would have contributed, state, federal, and if you use 1 or 2% of VAT that you see today to form the NEL fund, you have solved that problem. Don't come and take the one from Peter to pay Peter.
Well, there is also one or two issues. One or two issues. I don't know about Peter. Maybe they are twins or something. But one other issue that's been talked about concerning TET fund in particular is political interference. It's one of the key criticisms about how the TET fund is being administered. So it's what would you say about that? Because perhaps you may also want to make recommendations as to what aspects of that law, the TET fund law, should be needs some adjustment so that it is insulated from political interference. If you agree that indeed is true.
Like I said, when this law, the act was passed in the year 1993, ASU was a member of the board of TET fund to serve as a check, and we were doing that perfectly until 2011, 2009 or 2010, without even inviting us for any public hearing, National Assembly, they changed it and remove ASU. So what I'm saying, they change us and remove ASU as a member of the board of TET fund, and now make it political. And now you are hearing these issues. So let's go back to the original draft of the board of TET fund, where some stakeholders that you believe can challenge these politicians become members of the board. Unlike what you have now. You must get one position for each of the political zone.
I mean, you alluded to something that I'm just even reading the Colleges of Education Academic Staff Union also saying the same thing. And it's a very interesting idea, the idea that there is some clandestine plan by the ruling class to destroy public universities, and you know it does seem a little conspiracy theory-ish, you know, like they want to pave way for their privately owned schools. But, you know, I want to be able to bring up the conversation about our public tertiary institutions. For many people, these are institutions that are not exactly churning out people that can really do the work we need in public universities.
They cannot.
You know, people have been complaining about the quality of graduates
which is not correct.
Schools.
Wouldn't
private... For the people who believe that the graduates are not up to par with their mates around the world, wouldn't privatization make it even better?
Which is not correct. You see, all you're trying to speak to run down the public, maybe for whatever interest. All Nigerian medical doctors are being sought of for all over the world. Is it not true? Nigerian nurses are being sought for all over the world. Nigerian lecturers are being sought for all over the world. So, Nigerian ICT and this are being sought for. Well, you said no, they're not. Where they are Nigerian. Saudi came and plus so many of our graduates here. They came nurses. So why you say they are not employable? What you are seeing is a collusion fight. Collusion by the private and some of the political and people who have interest to kill the public universities. Our graduates are as good anywhere in the world. When I go around this country and I see my students, I go around the world, I see my students, I am so proud I'm a lecturer in Nigerian universities. The only problem we have is that there is a fight by the elite to kill the public universities. And they come with all sorts of story. Subject any Nigerian graduate to to any test all over. There's a program, they call it WASCA. I'm one of those who lecture there once in a while. I have been there. We pick one PhD candidate from all over the West African country for training. And for the 3 times, 4 times I have gone, 3 times the Nigerian graduate will be top. I was scared that maybe I was biased. I had to call my colleagues from Poland, and so I asked, let me see, how is your grade? And they gave me exactly the same thing. So anybody Nigerian graduate, the only thing we need now, especially for the science-based thing, is for the government to allow Ted Fund to completely build up our laboratories. Simple. There's no university in the world, you will not see a Nigerian lecturer.
So as we wind down on this one, the drafters have said we don't plan to scrap it. But you say it's playing with words. So that means it's pretty simple. So what we need to do then is, ASU, you just need to come up with your recommendations and submit to them. It hasn't even gone to public hearing, especially today that they now say, okay, AGF, work with National Assembly, let's resolve some of this gray area. So we'll expect that some of these concerns you have
while we are raising
forward.
This now, we are going to be sure that this thing does not go. We are going to work together. We, ASUP, COASU, and all the unions, we are going to work together to ensure this does not go. You know why? When you go for public hearing, there are higher crowds. Yes? No, they are there. I'm telling you, they're welcome. And yeah. That's all. So whatever we say, make no meaning.
I really want to see you as a part of the negotiations going on right now. And you said you were going to follow up.
You have big crowd will come. Wear a uniform.
You said you were going to
yeah, you have to see that. You're uniform. They were not shouting.
You said you were going to follow up. Since there are negotiations going on right now, maybe, you know, so you can actually be part of those negotiations.
We are appealing to the government. Please, in the interest of Nigerian students, in the interest of Nigeria, allow Ted Fund to stay on its own. Look for other funding, which they want us to tell them. We have done that. The committee set up, head by Musa Jibril, and I was there. And we went around, and we know Nigeria has so much money. One of the things that came from that is this stamp duty that nobody's talking about today. If you know how much money has been generated for stamp duty, if you put 5% of it to fund that, it will fund it fully. Okay. But that has gone down, but they are collecting it.
All right, so...
Have you heard anything about stamp duty? So the money is still being collected.
So what they're saying is you want Ted Fund to still be funded. So, but they are saying, yes, it will be funded, but maybe the how appears to be the bone of contention.
We are saying Ted Fund should remain the way it is. Companies should invest. I didn't say pay tax.
But they fund it with taxes.
I said companies should not call it tax, call it investment in education. 2% of your 3% of your investment in education. So trace to graduates who come and work in your company. Is that a big thing to do?
But did you invite these companies when you came up with this? Look, you said they did it without calling you. Did you in turn let companies
do? The president then, I will still mention him, President Babangida. Before we do that, we would have consulted. Babangida in those days. Before we would have done this to approve that this thing should go as in 1993, we would have consulted. Not we.
All right.
And not every country. You have to make sacrifice for education.
All right, Prof. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll expect that some of those recommendations will be forwarded to the appropriate quarters and as I say, they'll look into all of this. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Professor Osodike is the president of ASU. Business Morning comes up now.
Well, hello and welcome to another trading day right here in Lagos, Nigeria. The markets are getting ready. We see in the FX market, we see Naira getting its groove on from yesterday's trade. But let's get a check on what's playing out with the oil market. We see oil prices were mostly stable today ahead of an OPEC Plus meeting. That's later in the day with investors waiting to see what the producer group would do next on supply cuts, while also monitoring geopolitical tensions. So we'll see after that big gain we saw yesterday from the morning trade into the afternoon. We're seeing today 0.08% uptick for Brent crude, $72.37 a barrel. And after breaking above that $70 psychological level, that's the US WTI, we see it back below that. But it's up about 0.10%. Both benchmarks fell nearly 2%. That was yesterday from the early big pump we saw in the early afternoon. So a lot of volatility right there in the oil market. Let's get a check on the FX market now. We've seen the Naira there looking strong to close yesterday. A big 1.76% gain for NFM at 1,613 Naira. The previous close was about 1,642 Naira. Then we see NAFEX too. Normally we see opposite direction for both markets, but they're saying the same thing now. 1.79% for the close yesterday. 1,628 Naira to the dollar. Strong single day gain. That's for this market. And we also hear in the parallel market too. So the Naira also gained there. All right, that takes me to my first conversation now. The newly introduced Enhanced Foreign Exchange Market System, that's FMS, by the Central Bank of Nigeria, we see recorded a big first and second day of trading. Joining us to analyze now, we have Oladipo Ajayi, head FX and fixed income, Chapel Hill Denham. Great to have you. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Ladi. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so tell me, we're seeing this big gain for the Naira yesterday in the official window and also the parallel market. What's so special about the FM's platform? Because we're seeing it's being touted to be the reason for the gain we're seeing in the FX market.
Well, Ladi, I think the FM platform actually justified the civilian governor. Because sometimes last week we had the civilian government saying that the problem in the FX market is not liquidity. That is even the ability to actually deploy the funds appropriately. And I think this system has actually justified the civilian governor. Because what the FM platform has done is that he has given more like a price discovery. He also brought on the table transparency. And also, he actually provide liquidity to the market. Because what we can see in the market currently is the fact that we have now noticed that there are more supplier in the market than the people looking to buy. Because when you look at what happened in the window yesterday, market closed with about $2.5 million bid. And we saw offer as much as about 26.5 million offer in the market yesterday. And these are reasonable levels. So it means that for a long time, the opaqueness of the market has to a great extent deprive investors the opportunity to actually get good value for Naira in the market. And I think this is one of the things that this system has done.
Yeah, so, and some sources suggested that the exchange rate on the official market, it closed about 1,595 Naira to the dollar. You know, but on the CBN website, it was displayed 1,613. So it seems we might be going sub 1,006 at this rate.
Yeah, I think before the end of trading section today, Ladi will actually get there. Because yesterday, the market traded as low as 1,595 Naira in the FM market. And also, the parallel market is also narrowing down, also actually moving in the same direction. We've seen the parallel market trading around 1,690 now, compared to the 1,740 that has been more like a stable level that we have seen in the past week. So, and I think that the decision of the central bank to also onboard licensed BDC operators in that market also help this in this regard. So it simply means that BDC operators also can also play in that same market, and that will also help to actually cascade the price down to what is actually obtainable in the parallel market.
All right, so you know, at this rate, is this what takes the Naira sub 1,000 to the dollar?
Well, I don't see some 1,000. I don't see some 1,000 as we speak, because even when you look at looking at it from the intrinsic value of Naira, it's around circa 1,100. That is more like when you look at the purchasing power parity. When you use that as a metric, you come to around 1,100 thereabouts. So it simply means that Naira is actually heavily underpriced as we speak currently. And what's currently happening is in form of policy direction. If the policy is clear, if transparency is there and we're able to actually attract foreign inflows into the market and actually stabilize the economy, I think we'll actually see Naira trade around that level. But I don't think we'll see like a sub 1,000 very soon.
All right, we'll definitely be looking out for that and tracking this FM's platform. Thank you so much, Oladipo Ajayi, head fixed income and the FX market at Chapel Hill Denham. Thank you for coming on today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so we see to other stories now. We see the Minister of State for Industry, Senator John Eno, is asking the fiscal authority in Nigeria to accelerate activities which would alleviate the hardship faced by the organized private sector. Senator Eno was speaking with journalists after a town hall meeting with players in the real sector in Lagos. He believes that the monetary authority has had to remain hawkish because of parts left undone by the fiscal authority. Take a listen. It's the inaugural engagement of the Minister of State for Industry, Senator John Eno, with representatives from the organized private sector. At a time when manufacturing GDP has reduced 8.21% in the third quarter of 2024 from 8.42% in the corresponding period in 2023, the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has a long list of requests.
Although there has been a hike in electricity bill, we have witnessed more than 6 or 7 national grid collapse, which means that we need to cautiously invest in infrastructure and ensure the security of our power infrastructure that we already have. And there has to be a system that is just in ascertaining what the tariff is.
The Voice of Small Businesses questions the effectiveness of government policies.
Now, between 1999 and 2015, the federal government has announced 5 or 6 major programs, average of 200 billion naira each, to support MSMEs, which never got to us.
Raw material export and import also need urgent attention.
We are urging the National Assembly to mandate that raw material exports must have a minimum of 30% value addition. You don't export raw materials.
Honorable John Eno, as it comes forward. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, please be seated. Thank you. Thank you.
These perhaps would form the working strategy for the minister, and he asks for every group's contribution.
The ministry will not just sit there and work alone and begin to rule out the things that need to be done. The ministry, through this and going forward, is going to continue to call for partnership. Today, the CBN, in its various monetary policy, committee meetings, what they keep doing is interest rates and all of that. Nigeria's problems today cannot just be solved alone by monetary policies. No. What are we doing in the fiscal side?
Ways to achieve transparent spending as a mechanism to encourage tax payment, reduce multiple taxation, high interest rate, reduce energy costs, among others, and these would form the initial focus of the special committee which the minister intends to create, which would be chaired by himself and the president of the organized private sector of Nigeria. The next meeting is scheduled to hold in the first quarter of 2025. That is some company news now. Taj Bank has reaffirmed its commitment to prioritizing customer satisfaction by delivering high-quality financial services. This pledge was made by the bank's management during the celebration of its 5th anniversary in Abuja, an event that also featured the recognition and rewarding of both customers and staff.
This beautiful and colorfully decorated hall is where the management and staff of Taj Bank are meeting to celebrate the 5th year anniversary of the bank. It's a celebration of success, hard work, loyalty, and commitment to quality.
When you have more than 1,500 people earning their daily bread in the bank, I think these are the things that are worth celebrating.
Tonight, we don't just celebrate Taj Bank, we celebrate its vision, its people, and its heart. Taj Bank, 10 over 10.
With a current spread of over 50 branches across the country, Taj Bank says it wants to become one of the top 10 banks.
we have consistently been posting profit after tax. Hopefully by 31st December this year, inshallah, the figures are also going to be wonderful.
Tonight, the bank is also awarding excellent services, beginning with its visionaries. Long service awards are also presented to deserving staff. As guests dine and wine, Taj Bank promises to leverage its human resources and technology for sustainable growth in the years ahead.
We achieved profitability in our first year of business. We wiped up pre-operational expenses within our first year in business. And again, we are the first bank in Nigeria to introduce a private sector, fully 100% private sector sukuk.
5 years down the line, we have invested heavily in technology, and we are still doing more in that space. Why we are doing that is because we aspire to be among the top 10 banks by the year 2029. And you know, when you have that kind of aspiration, you have to invest, 1, in human resources, 2, in technology.
The management of Taj Bank promises to continue to build a strong brand with solutions and competencies in non-interest banking, while adopting sustainably ethical banking products and services.
All right, let's head to the commodities market, and we have Dumebi Oluwole now, a senior economist at FDC, and she's joining us right here. Great to have you, Dumebi. So
great to be here, Ladi.
Quite a close, for the Naira yesterday. A big
win, I guess.
Big win, you know,
and a big surprise.
And I'm wondering, you know, salary earners should be getting really excited right now if this continues. You know, being an import-dependent economy. You know, so talk to me about this new platform and, you know, what it's doing for the Naira.
So I would say, so we'll start with the platform and then go to some of the drivers of what we're seeing impacting the Naira, especially at the parallel market. So the FM is one of the biggest innovations right now, I would say, from the central bank, and it's still based off of their mandate on price stability and transparency, right, around what is going on with Nigeria's FX market. So when you go on the platform, basically what you're seeing is live trades, right, so of FX buying, FX selling, right, you're seeing the quotes, you're seeing the offers from various commercial banks, kind of like what you would see on a Bloomberg terminal, right, from commercial banks. And right now, just like what you're seeing now is right there on the central bank's website. And what this does is that it gives room for transparency. So as an investor, as a business owner, as a bank, basically you get to know what the Naira is currently trading at. You get to know what other people are quoting as well. There are still some limitations as well, when simply because you don't really get to see like the bulk of trades that have happened, right, and at what the bulk of trades basically. But again, this is still a step in the right direction, where there's transparency in the FX market. People get to see what the Naira is currently trading at a particular point in time on a daily basis, and there is some level of understanding as to what the Naira, there's some level of understanding for businesses in terms of like planning around those FX numbers, and basically it just gives transparency, and that's a good thing in terms of boosting investor confidence on Nigeria's FX market and monetary policy, to be precise. So now going into like some of the things that have impacted the parallel market rate for the past, say, few days. So one of the big things that we have seen is the positive sentiments that we've seen around the Eurobond issuance, and also the transparency from the FMs. It's one of the big things that we've seen supporting the Naira. So we've also seen like the CBN somewhat stepping. I think the first day the FMs actually came live, there was like huge participation from the central bank to clear some of the FX demand that was right there on the platform. And what that did was it gave some level of confidence to investors to know that when there is a need for the central bank to come in to support the market, that happens very swiftly, right? So we have seen those sentiments support the Naira. Then as well, we have seen on the NAFEM window, that's the official trading window right now, now, we have seen like a significant, or let's say, sort of a stable increase in FX transactions, right? So the average daily turnover has been increasing to an extent, to a bit stable, I would say, and that to an extent has supported meeting demand, FX demand needs at the official market. And what that now means is that if FX demand is being met at the official market, there's a reduction to an extent in demand at the parallel market, and that somewhat supports the price.
So are we taking the BDCs out of business?
No, we're not. But what this just means is that from the entire FX liberalization that has happened, when there is an increase in supply at the official FX market, like what this means is that demand is significantly met, right? So commercial banks are able to meet their demand. It doesn't mean that BDCs are out of business, but what it just means is that a huge bulk of the demand doesn't now rest a lot more on the parallel market anymore, and that helps to somewhat narrow the gap. Because if you notice, over the past couple of weeks, we had seen like that gap beginning to widen again. The spread between the official market and the parallel market had increased from about 5% to about 8%, and that's because we're seeing a lot more pressure, demand pressures at the parallel market. And one of the pointers to that was that supply was a bit short at the official market. So basically, we're seeing that balancing effect of FX demand both at the official and parallel market. And remember, the exchange rate is the price. So if demand activities are slower at the parallel market, the price, which is the exchange rate, will reflect that market dynamics. Then I guess other things that we're also seeing support the Naira's appreciation right now. We're seeing like cocoa prices significantly increase. We've also seen oil prices trend higher. And what this just points to is that, to an extent, those positive global market sentiments are feeding on Nigeria's market, because there are expectations that if this continues for the long time, we will see an increase in FX earnings towards Nigeria.
It's looking like there's a possibility we might see a bullish Naira going into 2025.
I mean, there are chances.
It's not a trend yet.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. So all of these are somewhat temporary, right? But the expectation has always been that we actually never saw the Naira closing at 2,000 Naira or above 2,000 Naira at the end of 2024. So all of these things are just pointing towards that. It doesn't mean that the Naira might not still see like some level of depreciation and stuff. But what this just tells us, when you see sharp appreciation in Naira like this, you know that there are factors responsible for that, and it's somewhat temporary, because this is just the first time that this is just happening once, right? So until we see that consistent trend. And I want to just point out that what we would likely see going into the end of the year is somewhat of a stability of Naira around what is currently trading at. We might not necessarily see a sharp depreciation going into like 1,800 thereabout, but we'll just see a level of stability. And even when we see depreciations, they will be manageable, not too far from what we've been seeing throughout the year.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to see a pump and dump.
Of course,
at this point. But you know, looking at how the platform is playing out, you know, right now, and let's say, you know, as time goes on, the platform gets even better. And I try to imagine how it works in my mind. I'm imagining, you know, like a regular exchange, maybe a trading exchange on your computer. You have the buy, you have the sell, you see what's playing out, you see the prices and all of that. So going forward, we know we had all those, you know, backlogs of demand. Forex demand. So does it reduce that if this continues and continues working well? You know, going forward, the companies that bring in dollars, they're able to just take it out easily.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's the bigger picture, right? And that's the end goal of all of this. And what this just does is that, again, like I said, there's transparency in what is going on with Nigeria's FX market. You know what the rates are trading at. Businesses are able to use this to plan, to even know what FX to actually bid for. You know, if you want to repatriate your funds, you know somewhat to an extent the kind of liquidity available in the market. And again, I mentioned that the CBN, you know, the CBN coming in on the first day when the market, you know, when the FM trading actually started. If that continues, right, where there's some level of stability and assurance, right, and certainty with business operators knowing that when there's a huge bulk of demand, the CBN can come in to make sure that demand is cleared up at a particular time. Businesses can use that to plan. So we're not just looking at this in terms of the short term, right? We're using this in terms of long-term planning right now for businesses. Because remember, one of the issues that has been very big with Nigeria's FX situation is that the uncertainty around the Naira, how fast and how quickly it has been changing, has strategically affected businesses, right? Because when you think about it, going into a new fiscal year, businesses plan at the end of the previous year, right? To say, okay, if the Naira trades at this level, this is what is going to affect, this is how it's going to affect us. They plan their operating expenses, they plan their administrative expenses, and when there's a huge shock to that, what it means is that there's uncertainty. They're not able to produce as much, they're not able to expand as much, and that now in turn on a larger scale affects the productivity of the nation. And what this helps us do is, on a small level and at a gradual scale, it helps us begin to correct all of these market inefficiencies, right? Where businesses are able to know this is what the market is trading at, and on XYZ day, the CBN could come in to step in and fix and clear the FX demand that has piled up at the market, or even on that particular day, right, that FX demand is cleared up. What that now does for a CEO, right, is I know that I need XYZ, I need about $100 million, I want to repatriate that amount of money, or I need that to import or to export, right? I know that this is what I need, and if I make that bid today, the CBN will most likely clear that in the next 2 days. And if I take that projection into my 2025 strategic planning, there's some level of stability, right? You're not expecting too much shocks, even though they will still account for it. Businesses will definitely still account for it, because it's not possible that you don't account for a possible like a devaluation or inflation coming in. So they will definitely account for that, but you can't necessarily account for uncertainty, right? And that's what this helps us try to correct.
Right. And talking about uncertainty, a foreign investor I spoke to recently, he said he's bullish on the Naira at this point. He's actually going long on the Naira. So, and I'm wondering, markets trading is mostly about sentiment.
Of course.
Does this reduce bets against the Naira?
Of course, to an extent, yes, it does. Again, it just started, right? So it's basically what we're saying is like baby blooming activity, right? It's like, okay, and we will definitely see positive sentiment. But again, remember, we need it to be sustained, right? So if the activities are sustained over the next couple of months, right, if we go into the first quarter of 2025, and we see that the exact same activity and momentum that this started off with has gone on into Q1 2025, that investor sentiment and confidence that we're trying to rebuild, it becomes even much more better, right? So we'll most likely see this ripple effect or multiplier effect in FPI inflows coming into the country. Then we'll start beginning to see like more long-term investors reigniting conversations about bringing funds into Nigeria for the long term. And one of the key pointers to this is the level of private capital activities we're beginning to see in Nigeria, right? We have seen a lot of private equity investors bring in funds, but more importantly, look for how to take those funds out quickly because of the huge shocks that we have seen. So what this might do right now is help them somewhat restart the conversations about bringing in funds into Nigeria for more longer term purposes, right? Investing more in businesses that have longer shelf life, basically, right? So things like technology, manufacturing, industrials, right? So rather than always focusing on like financial services, thereabout. So we might see a change in investor appetite in terms of sector performances right now, where they're going to target their money into, because now there's some level of stability and certainty around where they believe things are going to start correcting themselves. And remember, the end goal here is productivity, right? If all of this, the CBN is doing all of this, and we don't see that fiscal support in terms of ensuring that the necessary infrastructure to somewhat support that level of uncertainty that we're seeing coming on from investor confidence, we might start seeing like certain lags or an imbalance in how investors are beginning to perceive Nigeria and how quickly they bring in these funds.
Right, because some salary earners at some point, the salary could get you $1,000, but that's not the same.
Yes.
Right now, and definitely a lot is riding, on the Naira strengthening, being an import-dependent economy, and knowing that the hardship we've seen so far is mostly because of the Naira.
Yes, exactly.
Losing value. So, going forward, at this time, we're seeing the oil markets, a lot of volatility there. With WTI, they get to $70, or lost that level today. So, what are we really seeing in the oil market at this time, and how does that play into this platform?
I'll say that the oil market, I think it's pretty known that is volatile. So we a lot of times we do not benchmark so much on oil prices, right? At least the spot prices. So again, remember that commodities are traded in forward contracts, right? So what we should be looking at is the forward contract of what crude oil prices are currently trading at. That is, what is the price of crude oil today? Speaking of looking at it in the context of maybe January 2025 or March 2025, I think that change in the forward contract prices are what we can now use to determine, to know how much of an impact, right, this is going to affect the FM's platform. So it's quite a long chain reaction, because we do know that where oil price is really coming is how they impact the revenue of the federal government, right? It doesn't necessarily change investor activities, right, and how they trade on the FMs, right? It doesn't necessarily do that. What it just does is that if we have oil prices, maybe the forward contract for March 2025 now trading significantly lower than our benchmark, which is about $75 per barrel, then we know that there's a huge issue coming for Nigeria in terms of how it's going to raise revenue.
If oil prices, start going up, we get more inflows.
Of course,
the CBN has more,
yeah,
to throw into that market.
Of course, we will definitely see like more positive reactions, but again, remember that there's a lag effect, right? There's a lag effect between when we see oil prices increase and how that impacts the Nigerian economy. And the important thing to actually look at more is the increase in Nigeria's oil production, because we are more sensitive to changes in our oil production than prices. And the reason why this is extremely important, because we are exporting, right? So if we do not produce, do not take advantage of what oil prices are currently trading at or what the forward contract is trading at, what it then means is that we're going to earn less, right? And investors will obviously price that as a premium in terms of how quickly they will, bring funds in. And this is primarily for long-term investors, because short-term investors, they do take advantage of, all the momentum that Nigeria is receiving and the Eurobond issuance, the increase in treasury bill rates, because we do think that interest rates are still going to remain high if inflation remains high, right? At least at the level that it has traded up until now, because on average, Nigeria's inflation is about 32%, right? At least from January up until October, and we do think that change is we're not going to hit 20% before at least on average, before ending the year, right? And if inflation remains above 30%, what that means is that the CBN will still remain hawkish, and if interest rates remain high, it means hot money will still keep coming in, right, and feeding off all of this momentum. So again, oil prices being high, while it might be good, or while it might be good, the focus should be on how quickly Nigeria is able to ramp up oil production and what that now means for long-term investors, because the chain reaction there is, if oil prices increase, there's an impact on Nigeria's debt sustainability, how Nigeria is able to meet its fiscal deficit, how Nigeria is able to increase spending on the lucrative parts of the economy that should be supporting productivity. And investors will obviously look at that chain reaction, right, and those will be long-term investors.
All right, Dumebi, always great having your perspective. Definitely all eyes on the close for today. I'll be watching that.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
will
so
be
much.
too. Thank you so much.
Dumebi, always giving us unraveling the commodities market for us. So that's the show today. The markets are open right now. I'll give you a summary of what's playing now. That's at 1 p.m. on Business Incorporated. I'm Ladi Williams. I hand things over to the Sunrise Daily team.
Welcome back. Well, what a week it's turning out to be. Laulu Alakode joins us again today. So good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
So, wow. One of the, I think, pictures of the day, of the week.
Pictures of the week, yeah.
It's going to be this one. This, sometimes you wonder, were they trying to at least make sure they don't go below the 774 local government areas we have in this country by having 753 houses, for that seizure. But the thing about this seizure is that at the time that occurred, there were questions as to why was there no name attached to it? But the EFCC has since explained about what the law requires and all of this. But you've also been keeping tabs on this one. Well, some did tell us that they were not shocked about some of these things, but let me ask you, were you?
I was shocked, certainly, because, you know, one had no way of finding out that this level of graft and greed, you know, existed. I don't think you can escape not being shocked at the extent of greed. I mean, based on what we know and the information that is already in the public space. I mean, people say that EFCC didn't name the people, you know, but that's not technically true, you know, because the court papers are public documents, except they are sealed. In this case, you know, Empowered Newswire found out that those papers were not sealed, and the names are there in the public documents, you know. So it's not a question of EFCC trying to conceal it. They may have other technical reasons, you know, but clearly the names behind these acquisitions they're matters of public knowledge already.
I think what's happened with this situation is that it brought up a lot of questions. How did someone get the license to own that
company?
A company. What kind of background check was done? You know, everyone should start looking at ages, because those are and the FCDA, because they can't pretend that they don't know about what's going on here. I've seen a lot of questions around that. How did this happen? Where, under whose watch did this happen? What background check was done on this? If they said it was a company, who owned the company? What was it supposed to be for? You know, there's so many questions. What do you make of those conversations?
I mean, I know that, and it's the FCDA, I know that they do give development licenses and privileges to people to help develop the city. You know, now I have not myself looked at their codes and to understand what are the limitations and stuff like that. But, you know, of course, this appears to be rather very huge, you know, and people have raised the question. It will be useful for people in FCDA to educate us, you know, on some of these things. We see estates all over the place, you know.
Empty.
You know, yeah, there are empty estates, but I'm saying that there are also estates where people live legitimately, you know, so some people gave the rights to do sort of all those stuff, you know, so maybe it might be helpful for us to be educated that do you have a situation where somebody can have, you know, this estate of or a company, you know, so I really don't know what the regulations are, but I know that people have raised this question, and it will.
If you've gotten a license and someone has built to this magnitude,
right?
Okay, so why is it empty? Why is it not functional? These are things, and we hear the FCT minister talk about this all. In fact, right now, if you have land somewhere and you've not done anything on that land, you will lose it, according to the FCT minister. You know, so for a case like this one, you know, where this has been there for a very long time, what kind of conversations, you know, I think what I don't like is how everyone is quiet from the FCDA about this. I think this is something they should be talking about right now and clearing their own name on this.
Yeah, well, if you look at the court papers, you will see that this has happened quite a while back, you know, and I think it was because the thing was abandoned at some point that encouraged the intelligence upon which EFCC acted, you know, to bust this crime. This is a real crime busting, and we have to give EFCC the credit.
Well, the matter, who knows how long that trial, you know, will go on for, but the questions as to the kinds of systems that we do have in the country that allows for all of these kinds of things. As a matter of fact, of equal importance is the question as to proceeds of crime.
Yeah.
Has that been addressed?
Yeah, well, that's actually the instrument that the EFCC has used in this matter. Now, if you pay attention to what the EFCC have said, you know, especially the chairman, he said that so now when they are conducting an investigation on stolen property, when they are doing recovery, they are not just trying to get the details of the case itself. They are also not waiting to go after, you know, the proceeds of perceived crime, which is exactly what happens in this matter. So they're saying that, look, while we're investigating financial crimes, you know, in the process of it, if we find property, or proceeds of crime, we can actually go after those proceeds, and retrieve them, even while the case itself is going on. That's a bit of progress. And that's why I think that, Olaluka should get quite a bit of credit in this matter, because he developed that strategy to say that, look, while we are going after the case in court, we also now have the legal instrument to say that, look, get the property, seize the property. And in this case, this is the final forfeiture, by the way.
So what then happens, because we shouldn't have scenarios wherein you go to the offices, you see cars are parked there, companies that have been seized are just locked down there, buildings that have been there, just there, nobody's occupying them, and then it's moribund, because in this kind of economy, you need to keep having turnaround of those resources to benefit the state.
Absolutely, very excellent point, Chimbali. So if you drive to Abuja, you will see quite a bit of such prime properties that are empty. I mean, it's heart-rending that there are problems of housing, even in Abuja, and then these huge estates are just empty. So it's important that as these things are being retrieved, they should find a way, to turn it around for people to and I think that would be, I don't know which authority.
I think AMCON has a role too, probably. I think both AMCON and the Commission, the EFCC too, all of them that are involved in this kind of scenario should find a way.
And
so that works.
Because right now, I think so it's now back to, it's now a government-owned property. So I guess the federal government, probably FCT, FCDA, or whoever, or EFCC, I don't know how it goes. It's now a public property. It's now owned by the government, and it's going to be useful if they can turn it around in a way that benefits the people.
Because there were allegations as to the former Attorney General and the former EFCC chairman in terms of who was doing what, who wanted to benefit from what. So all of those scenarios are things that need to be avoided, because you don't want to see a former Attorney General, maybe when they leave office, you see them in lavish lifestyle. You're wondering, how did they get all of this as well? So those are things we need to make sure, so that not when they recover looted property, it's now re-looted.
Very important point, I mean, and we've had, to the extent that we are dealing with massive corruption in our society, you're going to find instances of all of that, until we are able to really bring this thing down significantly, and that's why we have to keep working on instruments and things that we can do to give this corruption fight a black eye.
Because
otherwise you are still going to be finding people in the system.
If we don't do that, if one person steals this and then you seize it from that person, all the hoopla, when it dies and somebody else steals it, what's the point? Quietly. What's the point?
What's the point? Very important.
Has there ever been a seizure that afterwards we actually saw the processes go where that particular seizure, which they say is a proceed of crime, has ever been liquidated or whatever and used for development of the community? Has it ever happened?
Well, I know that there were instances, when we were in the villa where some of the recovered properties were turned into government offices.
Okay, yes.
I know quite a few, but
some in Maitama.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. They were turned. So it's important. It's an important question.
Right. Let's look at this Dele Farotimi's matter.
Right.
Because when that is also out there, and it's lots of reactions about that to the kinds of persons involved. But you've seen the visuals of how the officials of Ekiti State Police Command came into Lagos, and all the narrative as to Zone 2 didn't even know, as they say, in Lagos, how did this happen? So what's going on? So what do you make of all of this?
Well, I think the first place to start is that now we know it's in the public space that Pa Afe Babalola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, a legal luminary that we all respect, felt that he's been libeled, and I think there are very significant proof to say that, okay, I mean, if you read the book and watch the interviews, I mean, I don't think Farotimi himself made any pretensions that he's actually going after this guy. So there is a basis for Afe Babalola to be aggrieved, and there's a basis for him to pursue redress. What I think is inelegant, if I can use that language, is that you will expect somebody like Chief Afe Babalola, with all of his respect and regard, and we respect him tremendously, rightly so, that he would rather pursue this matter as a civil case. There is a ruling of the Court of Appeal, because I tried to do some homework on this, where the Court of Appeal said that individuals should not, in 1982, the case between Othon Wako versus the state. It was a matter between Othon Wako and the former governor of Anambra State. And the Court of Appeal ruled that you cannot use the instrument of the state in the pursuit of your own personal fight. Now, so you expect that somebody like Afe Babalola should know that, and he shouldn't have been involved in calibrating or instigating the police to harass Mr. Farotimi the way we have all seen on video. Afe is aggrieved and he should pursue his right, but you expect somebody in his class, somebody with his reputation, what he represents is Afe Babalola is an icon in Nigeria. So you will expect him to put that in view and rather seek a civil process.
And it's interesting the words that you used. I don't want to lose my thought. You said inelegant. Inelegant doesn't mean wrong, does it? Was he wrong?
Well, so
legally,
to the extent that he felt aggrieved, lawyers have said that he had two options. He could go the civil, he could go the criminal. But there's a Court of Appeal ruling, okay? Where the justices in 1982 said it is not right to use state resources for a personal fight.
Initially what we were hearing was libel, defamation. Then we started hearing cyber bullying.
Yeah.
I think that added bit to the charges that they're bringing up against Mr. Farotimi. In many ways says, okay, well, if that's there, we're looking at it really strictly from a legal perspective, then yeah, it may be inelegant, but he's not wrong.
No, but why I think it's wrong is that the Court of Appeal said you shouldn't do that. I mean, Afe Babalola is not a more lawyer in this country. And you look at people like that. Some of us grew up in school. I grew up in Ibadan, where Afe practice was. Afe was like a mini god. So you expect people like that to be above board. That's the point. That's my own point.
The NBA,
he will get his redress in the civil case.
And the NBA put up a statement, and they said that even in the place where he was arrested, that the state had decriminalized that kind of action.
Yeah.
And so if you send police from Ekiti to go to Lagos, where the matter has been decriminalized, you drive him from there to Ekiti, that suggests that the police, this might be aimed at intimidating and harassing.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really concerned for our first reputation indeed, because the whole world is watching this saga and what the police are doing in the name of Afe Babalola. Everybody knows that this crime is no longer a crime as it were in Lagos.
Yeah.
Criminal defamation has been decriminalized in Lagos and Edo states. That explains why you had to have the police cross borders to come and pick this guy. That doesn't look good for an Afe Babalola. Somebody else can get away with this.
So here's the question. Is he supposed, how do we know that he didn't just report the matter to the police in the state, and then the police then do what police will do in the country, say, we'll have to be seen to be walking. Then they go to town.
And it's because of this thing you said, when you saw him
at that time.
You see him like that.
Yeah, so should he have said, hey, don't do your job like that? Wouldn't it be tantamount to, are you telling us to do our jobs?
No, I think that he knows better. There's no doubt about it. But the man is aggrieved, and I understand that. You got to read the book, and you got to see the ferocity and the audacity of Dele Farotimi. I mean, and we don't know, these things have to be true.
He said, the SAN libeled me.
Yeah.
I sued him.
Yeah.
But the wheels of justice ground me or ran against me.
There are all kinds of angles to this thing, and that is why the whole world, it's not only in Nigeria that this is being watched in the whole world.
Yeah.
And I will appeal to Afe Babalola that, look, in my language, and he's a Yoruba man, when an elder fights a younger person, he's called an agbaya. That means a big for nothing old man. Afebalola is not a big for nothing old man. Afebalola is a good man. He should not be doing this. Go after Dele Farotimi by all means, but go through a civil suit. Don't let it appear as if you are using your power and your influence to punish the guy already, even before the matter is heard in court.
Because at the end of the day, too, there will be several questions asked to. It means that, in fact, the other component to this is there's those who argue, but wait a minute, if we say the matter has been decriminalized in the state, what if the matter is, because I've not seen the charge sheet, if they say, because we understand he's been remanded until, is it December 10 or something like that? 10, yeah. If they then say, well, about cyberbullying, does he have jurisdiction?
Well, you know, I think that Femi Falana has explained quite a few of the amendments to the cyberbullying that people no longer, that people have not actually caught up with. Thank God for people like, you know, Femi Falana in this country who can educate even those of us who are not lawyers. Because you find out that lawyers will rather just take that aspect that favors them and they will concede. As always. Some lawyers, not every lawyer, they will concede.
They look for the lacuna.
Exactly. You know, but you have someone like Femi Falana who will say, look, this is it. So I don't think the cyberbullying stuff is as bad as it is because there has been some amendment. I think what is being used here is this criminal defamation, which is still in the criminal code, you know, which still runs in southern Nigeria. I understand that in northern Nigeria, they use the penal code. Both of those codes, criminal and penal codes, they are vestiges of colonial rule. It's not meant for free people. We are free people, you know, and that's why Lagos, and again, you must give the people in Lagos the credit, you know, and then Edo, they said, no, here, you cannot do criminal defamation. You know, and that is where everybody should go. That's where we should go as civilized people, free people.
I wonder what all these other states are just doing. If they, sometimes you just wonder what they do when certain things, anyway, one should know better. They always want to muzzle people. After all, they would think, God, say, Ayo, where are you?
Well, I'm here, Chamberlain, and I'm actually finding it, you know, interesting, the conversation you are having with Laolu right there. But just one question to begin with, you know, Mr. Akonde. It would seem like right now everyone is focusing on the how and neglecting or ignoring the what in this case.
Well, you know, so the matter is already in court, so we even have to be very careful how we do it. It's already in court, whether it's criminal or civil, it's already in court. So I think the court is the venue where Chief Affair is going to seek his redress and Dele Farotimi is going to make his case. Both of them, they're going to have their day in court. Let's just hope that it's a fair playing ground, you know, and the rest of us will sit back and see how that goes. So that is where the what is going to be dealt with. Yeah.
Okay, but even, you know, in the name of, just as you said, where free people were in a democracy and all of that, is there a lesson to learn here? Because, of course, I have the right to say anything that I want to say. Freedom of speech, freedom of this, freedom of that, all entrenched in the Constitution. But freedom of speech is like an estate. You have your compound, I have mine. And I have fences around my freedom of speech. You have fences around yours. The moment I encroach on your freedom of speech, then you can take me up. So do you see a lesson for us here? Because those who have seen that publication would also be, depending on what side of the divide you are, will be holding their positions.
Well, you know, Ayo, what I will say, because I have interviewed Mr. Farotimi on this matter, you know, and he's clearly on a mission, you know, and I'm sure that he saw this day coming. I have no doubt about that based on the conversations that we had, some of them public. So, yeah, I think the time has come for him to prove his case. And Chief Afebalola is pressing for redress, you know. So, like I said, let's see how it goes. Let's just hope that there is fairness in the whole thing. Well, we owe it to ourselves as a people.
Well, I'm just talking about the lessons that other people can learn from this, Mr. Akonde. Is there any lesson for other people here? Because, yeah, I mean, Mr. Farotimi is an outspoken critic, right? But there are those who are not, who have attempted such things and who have had to capitulate, so to speak. So are there lessons to learn for anyone else here?
Okay, you know, talking about lessons, I will say that the ultimate lesson that all of us must learn in this matter is that we should be in pursuit of the truth. So I like to know, for instance, and we should all like to know, the things that Dele Farotimi said about Affair and the rest of them. Are they true? That's the ultimate lesson that we want to learn. So I don't think we are learning the lessons yet. Now, in terms of if you are bold and audacious and you want to take on the big people in society, you know, you must be prepared for a real fight. I guess we are learning that lesson. Don't start a fight if you are not ready to go the whole hog. But I think Farotimi is ready to go the whole hog. Now, so the greater lesson is that we want to know, we deserve to know as a people, those things Farotimi said about Chief Affair, are they true? We're about to find out.
Well, that sounds like season 1, act 1, scene 2. But, you know, still on that same issue, Mr. Akonde, it's a very dicey thing to be in the limelight, you know. Your life is literally under the horoscope, so to speak. Everyone is watching. And sometimes your best intentions, and they don't go the way you expect them to go. Now, what are the lessons for those in the limelight? Be you on this side of the divide or on that side of the divide. You've said something very strong there, that, you know, when you're in the limelight and some things, you know, asking the question whether or not they're true. Something Chamberlain said when we began this conversation this morning at 9 o'clock, saying that, look, the police in Abuja, in your city right there, your city, they are looking at the issues around tinted glasses and all of that. And Chamberlain was asking, is it possible that the police would act on that provision, that the declarations they are making now, if the person was a politician who naturally rides in tinted glasses or whatever else? So it would be like there are certain privileges for some, and some other people don't get to enjoy those privileges. So how do you think this situation pictures play out in that kind of scenario?
Yeah, very, very excellent question. So I think the real thing to say is that when you are in the limelight, you know, don't forget that the world is watching. We are a community at the end of the day. The law is meant to serve us. So what we say, what we do, will be ultimately judged by others. So that's the point. The world is watching us. That's the lesson that all of us who are in the limelight must always remember.
Well, I thought I heard I saying, I concluded it will be horrific. Under the horoscope, not horoscope. For those in the limelight. Because, come to think of it, if this hadn't come up like this, would anybody have even paid attention to what Mr. Farotimi had said about Chief Affair? Because he said, look, Chief Affair defamed me.
Yeah.
And the judiciary overran me. Yeah, so what was it that was said against Mr. Farotimi himself?
Yeah, to the point that you said that people wouldn't have known. I have an uncle who is a close ally of Afebawola, actually, who called me yesterday and said, please, can I get the book? You know, and I went and go looking for it.
So now his book will start selling now.
So I went and go looking for the book in Abuja. It's sold out.
Yes.
Whoa.
Farotimi's book is gone.
It's sold out. So now people are finding out what all of this is about. And that's why it's important for this case to be done in a way that everybody will see that true justice is going to be done.
I want you to be, sorry, Chamberlain, I want you to be able to talk about, you know, the dichotomy between freedom of expression and criticism and libel. And like I said this yesterday as well. People kind of cross that line between I'm criticizing you doesn't necessarily mean that I'm libeling you. So if I'm someone who's criticizing you, I have to learn.
There are two different things.
Yes, I have to learn to criticize you without getting into libel.
Except you have the proof of defense.
Of defense,
this is the truth. If you're able to prove that, so if somebody said that you are a thief, if you can,
that's not criticism.
That's
impugning somebody's integrity.
So that's what
to make him look back in the eye of the public.
That's what libel is. So if you can prove it, and let me tell you, look, a lot of stuff have been going since yesterday on the internet. There are all kinds of things. This could be very, very messy. This could be very, very
We'll be here for the mess.
And you know, globally too, there'll be a lot of spotlight on Chief Babalola himself. Because he's done
Chief Babalola is the big fish. A big fish, a goldfish, has no hiding place.
Well, there you go. That's a place to anchor at this point in time. Lalo Akonde, former presidential aide. But we have to thank you all for letting us be a part of your day today. What a week it's turning out to be. So thank you all again. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain. What's up? Goodbye.
Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much for all of your messages. We see them and we'll talk about them tomorrow. Have a great day ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.
Well, there you have it. Kayla has made a promise. We'll hold you to it. Amaya Makinde, have a beautiful day.